So in chapter 3 of Investing for Dummies by Eric Tyson, it serves as sort of a manual for investors to go about looking into the wide array of investment options available, and it provides a really robust explanation of the different asset classes, their risk versus return, and how they fit into various investment strategies. Stocks are defined as, ownership in a company, or at least they should be. If they're C-class shares, they're not really, but that's another story. Look into it. The Ponzi Factor is a great book that gets into that. Anyway, they're categorized as common stocks, preferred stocks. You really ideally want stocks that have dividends. Otherwise, you're not really buying stock so much as you're buying a speculative instrument. Stocks are considered high risk, but also considered high reward. That's debatable, but that is the point Eric Tyson makes. And the suitability is generally ideal for investors with a longer time horizon because there are going to be ups and downs. Bonds are essentially loans that are made by investors to corporations, governments, etc. And the risk and return on these, the risk is usually lower, but the return's usually lower. It all pretty much fits. The suitability of these is usually for people who want a steady income. Real estate, there's directly investing, there's using real estate investment trust, and the suitability is generally for someone who does not need liquidity. Mutual funds and ETFs, these have the suitability for beginners who don't want to be hands-on in their approach. And the definition of one is essentially a mutual fund that pools money from various investors or a broad array of investors to buy a diversified portfolio of various assets. Small businesses, again, just like I said about chapter 2, they're going to be about your highest possible return, but also substantial risk, and you have to have entrepreneurial skills. You can't just press a few buttons or let someone else manage the money. Collectibles, highly debatable. The return can be massive, but the risk is also massive, and it really doesn't make sense unless you actually enjoy owning the collectibles. Precious metals, one of my favorites. I personally believe silver is about the greatest investment you can have right now, but it's based on the idea that it's a hedge against inflation and a hedge against collapse, which in the past has made it not particularly substantial, because obviously the system didn't collapse recently. And, hedging against inflation doesn't do as well as making money in the stock market. But if your belief is that, in 5 to 15 years, the current world order, et cetera, won't be in this situation, and we might be under a completely different currency, then silver or gold, platinum or palladium probably make a lot of sense based on that mindset. When you're evaluating risk and return, you have to balance the risk and reward, Eric Tyson explains. He emphasizes the importance of understanding risk versus return trade-off, the time horizon, how long can you commit the money, and also diversification. You never want to put all your eggs in one basket. Although, to be frank, I personally almost am. But matching investments with personal goals, you set investment goals, and you have to make sure they actually make sense based on your life decisions that are coming up. But chapter 3 essentially just gives you that understanding of the various investment options and gives you a better idea of how to weigh the risk versus reward.